Hey guys, so a little bit ago I was writing a new tool for the vegetables testing framework that I have, and as I was getting finished putting it together, I ran into a bug. And so I thought it would be useful to show you how I went about debugging this, and because it's a really good example of why if you're designing and writing a library, how important it is to be able to, when you're designing that API, to provide useful feedback to the users of your library in the case that something goes wrong. Because that was what happened. Was the bug was definitely on something that I had just written, but the feedback that the library provided me when things went wrong was what actually enabled me to be able to debug this. So let's jump over and I'll kind of show you what I was looking at, and we'll go through the debugging process that I went through. So the tool that I was getting ready to write is for the vegetables testing framework. You need to write a driver program, and the driver program is really very simple. It just collects up all of the tests that you wrote and then runs them. So it's really straightforward to write a tool that will write this driver program for you. You just need to tell it where are all the tests that you want me to put together. So this is basically what the tool is supposed to produce. It's supposed to produce this driver program, which just goes through all of your test modules, gets all of the test functions, runs them, and then runs the test suite for you. So the main body of the program that's going to do this is just the pretty straightforward command line interface. It's just going to get the name of the file where you want to put the driver program, and then each of the files where your tests are. And then it's just going to go through processing that command line, and then it's going to the main body of the logic is in this make driver routine. So for background, let's just go through and I'll kind of show you the gist of how this works, and then I'll show you the bug and then how I was going to debug it. So the important piece of information here is that test information is going to be, I need a module name, and then I need each of the function names for the tests. So basic logic for the make driver routine is just get the test information. So it's going to give this routine all the names of the files containing the tests, and then it's going to return back all the information for each of those tests, and then make a program out of it, and then write that program to the file, and that's it. So let's go through getting the test info. So it takes in the file names, outputs the information, and just the loop to do that for each individual test file. So the information is the module name just comes straight from the file name. So we're making the assumption that you've named the module in the file with the same name. And then it's going to scan that file to get the function names out of it. So let's go through how it's going to do that. So we've got a file name, and we need to return an array of function names. So first it's going to read the lines from that file, and then parse each line to maybe get a function name, and then for the function names that are for the parsing results that were okay, then we're going to loop through and pull the function name out of the parsing result. So how do we parse that line? So we parse with the parse text function name. Okay. All right, so this is coming from the parsing library that I'm using. So it takes a parser and a string and returns a parsing result. So what are we going to do? We're just going to So first we're going to parse at least one space, drop that, then parse function, which is just the word, going to be just the word function. Then we're going to parse a valid identifier, so that's going to be the function name, and then either a space or an open paren, so that's to make sure we've hit the end of the name. And then if that goes okay, we're actually only interested in the names that start with test, so we'll make sure we get one that starts with test, and if it doesn't, then we'll actually fail this result instead of it being okay. So that's the gist, is we're going to just parse each line, we're going to figure out whether it's the start of a function, we're going to check the name. If the name starts with test, then that's a function name that we're interested in, and that all gets collected back up. And then we pass it to this make program function, which we'll go take a look at, which basically just has that program as a template. We're going to make the use statements based on the test info, and figure out how to construct the array for where we call each function, right? So we can go through this, but that's not particularly interesting, right? So that's the gist of how it works. So now let's go through what was it actually doing, right? So I've reintroduced the bug so that we can go through the process of debugging, right? So this is what the output is supposed to look like. So let's run. I've got in here. All right. So this is the command we're going to run, and this should run that make driver program and generate this driver file. And so it does, but then you can see, okay, clearly there's a bug because we didn't get any of our use statements and we got no test functions. So now this is the situation I ended up in. Where like, okay, well, it's almost working, but we didn't get any use statements and we didn't get any functions. So let's start taking a look at what's going wrong. So we can look at the main function and we see, okay, well, it's at least called this. We know it's definitely called this because otherwise we wouldn't even get anything into our driver program. Okay, so we know we've gotten that far, but let's make sure that the arguments to this are what we expect. So let's just put a couple of basically print statements. So we're just going to go through some just first pass, like print statement debugging is what this is often called. So we're going to need that routine so we can print our strings. So call, put line. So let's make sure we're getting the driver file name correct. So rerun. Let's see what our driver is. Okay, that says test main.f90, so that's right, which it should be because it is putting output there. Okay, so we know that one's right. Next, we're going to need, let's see what we're getting for the test files. And so we'll need a do loop around that. So let's see what we're getting for that. Okay, so there's all the test files. So those are right. So it looks like our arguments are right. So let's go ahead and pull that stuff back out of there because we're not going to need it now. So we're pretty sure our program is working properly now. So it's somewhere in the make driver subroutine. Something's going wrong. All right. So let's see if we're getting the right information back from get test info. So let's look at all the module names we're getting. Let's make sure we're getting those right. Size. Test infos. So we're going to need, first thing we need to declare the integer I. So let's add that declaration there. And we'll say, oop, wrong spot. Call put line. test infos I percent module. Right, so this should give us the module name for each of the test files. And it certainly appears to be doing that correctly. Okay. That's what we expected. What about the function names? So are we getting the right function names out of there? We're going to need another loop here. So let's see what the function names look like. Do j equal to size test infos I percent file names. We want function names. That's the variable we want. There we go. And another end do. Alright, so now we should be getting function names for each of those. Oh, we didn't get any output. Okay. Well, how many function names did we get? Let's try that first. So let's just do print size test infos. I percent function names. So let's just get the size of that. Oh, we're not getting any function names for any of those modules. So now we're narrowing things down. Alright, so now we know the gist of what's going wrong. In our test info, we're not getting any function names. Right, so we know the module names are right. So we're ending up down here in the scan test file. So something in there, something in here is going wrong. And so we're not getting any function names back. So let's take a really simple approach and just make sure we're getting lines from each of the files. Star size of the lines. Let's make sure we're getting lines from each file. Okay, yeah, we are getting lines from each of the files. Okay. Are we getting the right lines? Let's try and make sure that that's size the lines. Let's just echo the files back. Call lines I. Let's just make sure we're getting the contents of the files back. Yep, that sure looks like it's working. Okay. So this is working. So where's the other business of this function? Parsing the lines. Okay. So are we getting any that are okay? So let's see what num function names is going to be. Right? Because we're getting a parsing result and it's got a component okay. So we're just checking that. And so the number of function names are going to be the number of parsing results that went okay. Parsed the name of the function for us. So let's see what that is. Okay, so we're not getting anything, we're not parsing any function names correctly. Well, and here comes the part about that library being, API being designed well enough for us, is now in this parse result, there's actually a message about if the parsing wasn't okay, I'm actually going to get an error message about why it wasn't able to parse. So now what we can do is we'll pull that one back out. We're going to loop through each of the lines, now we will be able to let's print out the line, and why was I able to parse it. And now we know for sure that this is going to be the same size, so we're looking over the right things. And we also know for sure that each one of these is going to be have a message, because none of them were okay. So in this case, we don't have to worry about checking every time through the loop, because we've already established that, at least for this point. So let's see what's going on here. So we run that, and we get all of the. Right, so we get a line from the file, and then a message back at line 1 and column 1 found E, but expected white space. Hang on. We're getting the first line, not the line we're actually looking at. Okay, here we go. All right. So we got a line from the file, and at line 1, column 1, right? So we're parsing one line at a time, so every line is going to be line 1. But at column 1, found E, but expected white space. Okay. So we didn't have any white space at the front. Okay, but we didn't expect this one to parse correctly, because we're looking for function names. So we need to go all the way back to find a function, find a piece that we're looking for. We need to find one of the lines that we expected to be able to parse correctly. Right, so we're starting to get close. Here we go. This is one that we expected to parse correctly. Function test underscore failing collection meters, right? So we expected this one to be parsed, and we expected it to give us back this name of that function, right? So it says at line 1 and column 13, so line 1, so column 13, so I got 4 leading spaces, and then the function is 8 more characters. So column 13 is that space. Okay, so that's what it's saying. It says found space, but expected a letter. Why was it expecting a letter there? Okay, well, let's go look at how it's doing this parsing. Right? So we're going to parse at least one white space. Okay. So we're actually expecting leading white space before the function declaration here, but that's okay. We've got it in our case. Parse at least one white space, then parse function. Okay, and it's doing that because it's already got, because now it's gotten to column 13. And then parse a valid identifier. And there's the bug. I need to parse the white space between function and the name. I forgot to do that. So let's fix that bug, and then we'll see what happens. Oop, I jumped to the end of the program. Go back. There we go. Right, so go to the end of the line. Right, so we need an extra drop then. So that's what we need to do. We need to drop, then parse the valid identifier. Right? So we want it to do this. And then we need to parse at least one white space. So now this should work. And since it's going to work, and since we expect that to work, this is going to crash if we don't pull it back out. So now let's see what happens. Right, so this is not what we're expecting, but let's see what we get now. Boom, there we go. Now we're getting what we expected, all 17 tests back, and now it's working. And because I was able to use the output from this library, even though things went wrong, it gave me very specific, useful information about what went wrong. so that I was able to pinpoint exactly where the issue was in my program. Without that, I don't know how long it would have taken me to notice that I missed this extra step in my parsing. But because I had this very specific output, I knew where to go look, and I was able to find it much faster. So if you're designing a library and writing one, for your API that you're going to expose to the users of your library, you want to make sure that you have a way to provide them useful, very specific feedback in the case that things go wrong. Because if things go right, everybody's happy. But when things go wrong, they need that information in order to be able to debug what's going on. Because they may not, they don't really have the luxury of changing the code in your library to help with this print style debugging. You'll notice that this parsing routine, this is a pure function. And the function that calls it is elemental. So I can't just jump down in here and start adding print statements because they're pure functions. I can't do anything like that. I can't do that. So I need to have the library provide me that output because I can't go add print statements into that library. So I hope that was a useful demonstration. I hope that was useful for you. If you're interested in seeing more of this, where I show some examples of debugging or refactorings I'm doing to stuff, go ahead and sign up for my email list, and I'll make sure you get the video the next time I do something like this. All right, so thanks guys.